obtain the best results? Because I know that they vary from sort of the shorter 700 nanometers to up to sort of 1 micron. And what sort of phases have been the best?
Tom, I'm sorry, Tom. Could you either hold your microphone closer to your mouth? We have troubles understanding you. In the meantime,
Is that
okay? Oh yeah, it's much better. But somehow Discord keeps cutting you up. But keep going now.
So it goes out towards Damian. I had a question on imaging Venus in UV IR bicolor, and more specifically the type of IR filter with which you've obtained the best results, because I know that they vary from 700 nanometers to 1 micron, and what phases have been the best for imaging the cloud structure.
Okay, from what I could make out from your question about IR filters and what is the best IR filter to use, in general with most amateur telescopes, the best filters are either typically the IR 685, or 642, or 742. So those three filters in particular generally give the best results with typical amateur-sized telescopes. If I had to choose one out of those, I'd probably go with the IR 685 filter, which is available from BARDA. That one is particularly good for typical amateur-sized telescopes.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so we've got our next question coming in. Squishy17, we just moved you up, and in between, just people, when you get invited, you see like a green bar pop up on top. Just react to it, and that's how you get onto the stage. There we are, and let's unmute you. Okay, there you are. Squishy17, you're up.
My question is for those who are either in the US or who have observed in the US, what is your favorite location to observe in and why?
Basically, this is for you, Nico. Where do you go for observation?
Yeah, so I mean, now that I'm here in Boston, I'm liking New Hampshire and Maine. But my favorite ever is probably Death Valley. Even though it's low elevation, I was on the playa, which is the part where it's just very open, and so you just really get that full effect of the full night sky dome really enveloping you. And so my favorite ever was Death Valley.
Oh, cool. And Helena, let's take it to Scotland. Do you like to image or observe?
So I'm in the southwest of Scotland, and my favourite place is the Galway Forest Art Sky Park. It's Bortle 1, it's away from all light pollution, and it's so quiet, and no one's ever there, and it's got a really lovely mountain range, and I love just hiking up that and taking some photos. I don't take my big kit, I just take my tripod and my camera, and I go up there and maybe do some. It's a really nice place for star trails actually, and like constellation photography, so that's got to be my favorite place. Really close to home as well, which is really cool.
And Damian, where do you observe or take pictures of planets?
Well, I mean, for sites in the US that I've observed from, by far and away, the best one that I've observed from was the Florida Keys at the Winter Star Party. For those that haven't been, it's well worth going to. Beautiful nighttime conditions, nice and warm, great company, great telescopes. Yeah, it's a really nice place.
Awesome. Squishy17, does this answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool. So I'll move you back into the audience, and I think Toaster, you've got the next one lined up.
Yeah, can I just say, for absolutely selfish reasons, Sir Toast, because I just couldn't resist. Go ahead, Sir Toast.
Ooh. Sir Toast is quiet.
Jeez, you burnt his poor tongue off.
Oh, I've been so let down. I feel absolutely
Oh,
crushed.
there we go. In the meantime, I'll look for the next one to get up. Urban, you're next up. I just invited you onto the stage. There is like a nice little question there is. So, hey, can you speak? Is your mic working?
Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Hi. So I'm planning to buy a Newton for astrophotography, and I've noticed that there are also some carbon fiber tube options, which are like, in some cases, even more expensive than the normal tube, like 600, 800 euros. So my question is it actually worth upgrading to that carbon fiber tube? Because for that money, you can already get for example, a C8 Cassegrain, or yeah.
So, who would like to go with this one? For planetary is carbon fiber a thing?
Fiber can have the expansion ratio roughly equivalent to steel, but good carbon fiber can be almost zero, meaning focus shift is very small. It depends on kind of the quality of it. Sorry if I went over people's heads.
All right. Anyone would like to pitch in or weigh in? So I guess this
I've
answer is
never
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I've never actually worked with carbon fiber myself, and I'm not sure how it affects focus or anything, but I know that it is lighter than your normal scope. So if you're planning to travel with it, yes. But if it's a stay-at-home setup, I just stick with the normal scope.
Yeah. Is carbon fiber a thing for planetary, Damian?
No, not particularly. I think in general it's more desirable to have just a standard aluminium tube telescope as a cool down really fast. It's generally much more affordable than carbon fiber as well. And yeah, so it's not really a thing for planetary imaging, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm planning
Okay.
mostly to do sorry, deep space objects. So in that case, it's not really worth it, since given the fact it's like 800 euros increase on a 600 euro scope.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Urban, for your question, and I'll move you back into the audience.
Thank you very much. Have a nice.
And next up, we've got Smarty.
Hello, everyone.
Hey. So, what's your question to the panel?
Okay, so I'm a complete noob, but I've got a DSLR with a 100mm to 300mm lens, and I've got a tracking mount. And last night, this is probably one of the best nights we've had down in Sydney for a long while. I went out and I took 67 30-second subs of Orion. Now, the individual subs on the camera looked fine. I had good colouring. It was quite detailed. I obviously had the polar alignment correct because I had good like circular stars. But when I stacked them together in Sequator, I ended up with a big white kind of blob, so to speak. Is that something? Am I overexposing on the camera, or am I stacking too many photographs in the software?
Do you mean like it's a white blob in like the center of Orion, like kind of the core of
No,
Orion?
the whole of Orion looks like
I
a
see.
white
Okay.
fuzzy patch.
That I'm not sure what the others think, but that might actually be like because of the cores being overexposed. I'm not sure because it's going to be quite small. And oh, sorry, what like focal length were you shooting at?
I was shooting at 200mm with a 30-second exposure and an ISO of 800.
I'm thinking it might actually was it just on Orion? Because I'm thinking it actually
Yes.
might just be like Orion. Oh yeah, so I'm thinking it might just be like the core that's like completely blown out Orion. I'm not too sure, but that's the only thing I can think of. And the way to prevent that is to take like shorter exposures of Orion's core, so like 5-6 seconds, and then blend them together in Photoshop. There's a couple of tutorials online about how to do that. I think what you're saying, I'm not sure what everyone else thinks, but I think the brightness of the core, because it is so bright, has just taken over Orion.
Yeah, yeah. I was quite surprised, in fact, how bright. It's my first time imaging Orion. I was quite surprised how bright it is in the individual subs. I can see definitive like coloring.
Yeah, the core of the trapezium region there is one of the brightest nebula regions in the whole night sky. It's very easy to blow it out. So you're not alone there.
Thanks very much. I'll try a shorter exposure time tonight. Actually, we're supposed to have clear night tonight, so I'll try that again.
Well, happy imaging then.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
So next up we've got Astro Steve. Hey, Astro Steve, welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much. Hope everyone's all right and you can hear me okay.
Yes, we hear you very well. What's your question?
Right, my question is, in astrophotography, something always goes wrong. The thing that's just gone wrong for me is my computer. So do I buy a new computer, Windows 10 with ASCOM, EQ mod, APT, etc., or do I go with a dedicated like ZWO ASIAIR Plus?
Sort of a personal choice kind of thing, because for me, I don't like being reliant on the app on a mobile device, so I've never gone that way. But other people love it. I image with people all the time that love that and find it much easier. So I guess it sort of depends on if you think you might like sort of the app experience, then the ASIAIR makes sense.
Yeah, I do all
I
of
agree with Nick.
processing through like Photoshop and stuff like that.
Helena?
I agree with Nico on this one. Like I think it's definitely down to personal preference, but I love seeing everything on the big screen. I feel like it's a lot easier to navigate. I've also heard a lot of people having trouble like connection errors with the ASIAIR. It's obviously down to each individual setup, but I've heard a lot of stuff to do that, and I think just having a laptop would be a lot easier. And saying that you're using Photoshop and stuff like that as well, I think just buying a laptop and being able to use it for Photoshop and Astro will just kind of kill two birds with one stone. I'm not really sure what you're thinking, but yeah, that's what I would go with.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome. And I'll move you back to the audience. And next up, we've got, I don't know, is it a German name, Sassenach, or should I spell it in English, Sassenach?
Hi there,
welcome
everyone.
to the stage.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great, thanks. So I have an ASI 462 MC, a color camera for planetary imaging. And I've invested in the IR 685 nanometer beta filter and a methane filter. And now I'm thinking about potentially having a UV filter to do Venus imaging. The question I had really was that for cameras like this, I only really see the responsivity of the camera down to about 400 nanometers. They don't really give you any figures for the UV region, at least not that I've found. And I was just wondering with such cameras if it made sense to invest in a UV filter for such imaging.
I wish Damian was still here. I don't really know. I'm not sure. Sorry.
Yeah. I guess in the end, if we cannot answer that, Sassenach, you will need to ask this again in Ask a Nerd.
Hold your horses. Hold your horses.
Sorry.
No, the cavalry has arrived.
Okay.
Go for it, Tom.
Hello. Sorry.
There he is.
Yeah, my mic was bugged out. Sorry about that earlier.
Sure.
What was the question again? Sorry.
So the question was relating to UV imaging of planets, specifically Venus. And I have a color camera that's great for color and IR, but it's not immediately clear to me if it would work for sub 400 nanometers. I don't think it's a problem necessarily just with this color camera, but color cameras in general. Seems to be recommended to use mono for UV imaging. I was just wondering how one would go about knowing whether your camera could work in the UV spectrum and give good enough sensitivity beyond just going out and buying a UV filter and trying.
Yeah. Oh, which color camera do you use currently?
It's the ASIAIR 462.
Oh, okay, yeah. I use the same one with a Optolong U Venus filter, and it works perfectly fine. So I've gone out and tested it. I have heard also that the mono cameras can do better. It's not optimal to use a color camera because you get essentially more noise, and you have to convert the image back to mono, and then integrate it from there. But the 462 can do it. I think you're asking the question because it doesn't show up on the ZWO website.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Past, yeah. Yeah, no, I tested it myself with the 462, and it works. It works fine. UV is quite dim though, so that will be an issue too.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And next up, we've got Hoggart. Welcome to the stage.
Hello.
So what's your question?
My question is, this week, obviously, ZWO, Pegasus Astro, and Sharpstar have now all announced harmonic-driven mounts, and I'm a bit of a mount nerd. So they're joining the likes of Rainbow Astro and OBM with their harmonic-driven wavestrain mounts. I just wondered what the panel's thoughts on this were, and is this the future of EQ mounts? Do you think that we're eventually going to go down that way?
I don't think so. I mean, because they're so specialty, because they have the huge periodic error curve. So you need to guide them with very short guide exposures. So I think that once people sort of get the limitations of them, I don't think they're going to replace the traditional heavy EQ mount. But I did pre-order the ZWO one to try it out. So hopefully in April, I'll get an idea for it. Because I was just sort of waiting for the price to come down to sort of a reasonable level like that to get one.
And do you have any worries with things like ZWO and Pegasus Astro? Obviously, they've never made a mount before, and I know they don't actually assemble the motors themselves, but it's their first sort of entry into the mount market.
Yes and no. I mean, I'm expecting to have to tinker with it and maybe giving them some feedback for a Mark II version. But I mean, ZWO, the people that were early adopters of that gave them a lot of good feedback, and they've improved their cameras a lot. So I think it's worth trying if you're not too risk averse, is the sort of thing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
you
guys.
for coming up to the stage. And next up, we have Sim. Welcome to the stage.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yes, very well.
Okay, so I just picked up an ASI 533 MC Pro to pair with my EvoGuide 50 ED as a tiny doublet refractor. And I've pretty much done exclusively narrowband with my ZWO duo band filter with my mirrorless camera. But since I'm moving to a dedicated unit, I'd like to try moving on to doing some other stuff. And I live in a Bortle 7/8 zone. I actually image from a parking spot. So I guess what kind of gain or exposure time should I think about trying on a moonless night for some broadband stuff?
I'd probably do gain 0 and just take a bunch of exposures. Yeah, that's how I'd go. I don't know if anyone else has different opinion on that.
I guess just like time per frame.
Are you
time per
using
frame?
any light?
Yeah, correct. For a single exposure. So I don't have like totally washed out skies, stuff like that.
You're probably going to have to experiment. I would get what you said, F5?
4.8.
4.8. I'm guessing you're going to be at something like 15 seconds, something like that. That's just what I found with people with the astronomy cameras, which are full spectrum and everything. If they're doing, and you might want to get an ASIAIR cut filter for that. And then, yeah, probably like 15 to 30 seconds.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so next up, we've got either George or Savvy James. I'm not sure who came up first here. So the first one who unmutes gets to ask a question. Hello. Hey, George.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, Ghosty. Hello, guys. Well, Nico, I have a question for you regarding filters. I live in a Bortle 5 area. I try to step up my narrowband imaging. I try to go from a 6 nanometer to a 3.5 nanometer. Basically, I try to get more oxygen 3 in the conditions of Bortle 5. What is your opinion on this? Does it make any sense to do the invest or not?
So you already bought the filter, or you're thinking of
Oh,
buying
no.
one?
I'm using 6 nanometers right now set. I'm quite happy with them, but I'm struggling from time to time to get enough oxygen 3, for instance. And I'm thinking what would be the next step. I'm using f5 scope and f8, but most of it's f5.
So I've found that for HA and S2, it does make a pretty big difference to go from the 6 to 3 or 6 to 3.5. And for the city, you'll get much better contrast. For O3, it's been sort of a different story for me. And though I have 3 nanometer filters, I still can't shoot O3 from the city because it's just too washed out with the LED lights, unless it's a very bright emitter like the Heart Nebula or something like that. But for anything that's dim, I travel to shoot the O3. So, and I honestly haven't seen a huge difference between the 6 and the 3 for O3 because it's right in the middle of the spectrum. So all the LED lights and all that stuff is just going to really wash it out. So sorry for the bad news, but I haven't seen a huge difference. It's something though that I'd like to like really test in a more controlled sense. So I hope to do that in the next year.
Okay, thanks, Nico. Actually, it's not a bad news at all. It's a good news because you save some unnecessary invest. Yeah, definitely. I'm not talking about big emitters because there is no problem with strong O3. Definitely, it's a problem with dim O3. Okay,
Sure.
thanks. That was it. Have a nice year and hope you will get clearer skies than mine.
Yeah,
Because I never
thanks.
saw a star for several weeks now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, Nico, I noticed that you had a website where you're methodically testing filters.
Yeah, I'm going slowly. I started with just sort of light pollution, and then I recently did the dual narrowband, and then so this year I'll try to do the single line narrowband.
Mm-hmm. And Helena, you're shooting with a one-shot camera or with a mono camera? I'm not sure there. I think you bought recently a 7 filter wheel, something like that.
Yeah, so I'm currently reviewing the 260M for QHY, so I'm currently using a mono camera, and the only narrowband filter I've got so far is hydrogen alpha, but I'm hoping this winter, if we get some clear skies, to do some HA RGB work on some Orion targets. And so hopefully the weather will work in my favor to do that.
Oh yeah, we all hope that.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, Savvy James, welcome onto the stage.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very well. What's your question?
Lovely. So I currently use a Lumix camera, a Panasonic, to image, and there's no way for me to connect it to like ATP or Nina. So I cannot dither between my frames, and it sort of has a walking noise issue. So I was thinking of buying myself like a 600D, one of the old Canon cameras. Now I was wondering, can an old noisy sensor be as good as sort of a newer sensor? Like, would I be degrading my quality of photos going to this?
My opinion is dithering will be a bigger help than going back to an older sensor. Yeah. So I think it's a good move.
Okay, and with that, I was also thinking of modifying it so I can get the HA from fainter nebula and stuff. So I'm in a Bortle 7 and I don't have light pollution filters. Would that be an issue, do you think?
it wouldn't be ideal, but the brighter HA emitters will look good. On the dimmer ones, you'd really probably want the light pollution filter.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
thing I
Okay.
would say as well is like you can buy like pre-modded cameras as well, so and save like a lot of money doing it. And like it depends if you want to mod your camera yourself, but if you do that, you lose the warranty of the camera. So I'd just be wary of that before you do anything as well.
Can I just point out that we're in the company of a true camera modding master here, Consti. Don't be humble now.
Well, I've it's easy to get a very just to get a used DSLR on that one. Never buy a new camera and mod it specifically for that. Never buy an expensive DSLR and mod that one for astrophotography. It's just not worth it, and you'll be buying functions which are awesome for daylight photography, but are just not useful for astrophotography. One and make a cheap DSLR worth something for astrophotography. Otherwise, just spend the money right away on a dedicated astrocam. But I think the Ryan also had some comments about the 600D, which is I think your go-to camera, right, Ryan? Okay, cut off there. Where am I cut off? Am I still there?
You're still there?
Oh, okay. Suddenly it's so quiet.
Ryan's just sleeping.
Okay, so I think Savvy James, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much, and have a good night, guys.
Okay, thank you.
You too.
Love the
And
videos.
we gently release you
I love
back
you.
into the
Oh, good.
audience. Oh, there you are, Ryan.
Oh, good.
So what were your thoughts on the 600D? Why was that your go-to camera, as I read it somewhere?
Okay, that was my go-to mainly because of simply ease of use in the field. You don't need to plug out the big 12-volt power source for doing it in the field. But compared to proper astrocam like the 2600, the 2600 has a lot lower noise and can take a lot shorter exposures. But if you've got a mount that can track, you can just take longer exposures with the 600D.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, next up we've got Sexy Uhu. Welcome to the stage.
Hi, thank you. My question is, I'm fairly new to this hobby, and my current problem is just managing my money and how much I want to spend. And I don't have a tracker yet, and I was wondering if it would be worth it to wait and save more money to buy a better tracker, like from what was it? Oh, I forgot. Like a $300 star tracker, or maybe would it be worth it just to spend like $150 for the Omegon mini trick LX3, if somebody knows that? So,
Either
Yeah,
spend the money now or yeah. Sorry, Nico, go ahead.
Yeah, I know the Omegon wind-up tracker. It's really only suitable for like wide field imaging, so you're going to be limited to something like maybe 50 millimeter or 70 millimeter focal length. So if you want something that will sort of stick with you a little bit longer and you can go up to maybe 200 millimeters, then I would save for the $300 one, like a Star Adventurer or a Skyguider Pro.
So if you want a higher focal length, you need a better tracker.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So your video was really great on the manual tracking. I did some great pictures with it and just wanted to thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Uhu, for coming onto the stage. And just following up on that, how were your, Helena and Nico, how were your like buying strategies, or when you started with a hobby for yourself at some point, how did you proceed to basically up your game?
So
I had no.
started.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Helena.
Let's
No,
go.
Nico, you
Yeah,
go.
Helena. No, Helena, this time.
Oh, okay. So I started with what I had, basically, as I said earlier. So I already had like a DSLR camera and a tripod. So that was my base. That was where I started shooting the constellations. Then I swapped out the tripod for a Star Adventurer because tracking really does change a lot. Like it changes your ability to use longer exposures, which will increase your signal to noise ratio, which just make your images look so good. I've seen a lot of untracked work that's absolutely phenomenal, but in my case, it was just easier for me up from a tripod to a Star Adventurer. And then from the Star Adventurer to the Canon, I then used my Canon with like, I think it was a Skywatcher 80 ED for a bit on like an equatorial mount, and then I upped to a bigger telescope and a dedicated astrocam. And it's really just like taking those steps. It's like walking up a ladder. It's like taking each step at a time. And I'm really pleased I did it the way I did, because I think in each step, if you think of it like that, you're gonna learn something and you can apply that to each step as you go up, sort of thing.
Oh, cool. So there we're talking about going up the ladder. And Nico, how did you fall into the rabbit hole, as I would say it? How was your way?
Yeah, my path was pretty similar to Helena in that I started with like wide field on a tripod, shooting Aurora, Milky Way, stuff like that. And then I got a star tracker, which at the time, it was before the Star Adventurer or the Skyguider Pro. So I got the Astro Track, which was an interesting tracker, different kind of design. You had to rewind it, but it was pretty accurate. And then pretty soon after that, I really fell into the rabbit hole as soon as I got a big EQ mount and telescope and all of that. And my biggest regret is just buying stuff quickly and then selling stuff too quickly. So like buying a new telescope and then having it for just 2 months or something, and then being like, I have to sell this and get something different because it's not working right. But that's just inexperience. It's not any problem with the actual telescope.
It's learning money, as we say in German.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's move on to the next question. I believe there's Sir Toast to... Hey, Sir Toast. Welcome. Does your microphone work now? This is the second try. Somehow this Toast does not get any energy. Toaster, we need to plug you in somehow. In the meantime, let's go to Wobble. Your question. Welcome to the stage.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Great. Right, so my question's a bit bizarre because I've been making stuff instead of buying mounts and things like that, because I prefer the challenge of making stuff. I've been making equatorial platforms out of wood and 3D printing the design using CAD and everything like this. So what I want to know is, because it's obviously quite rough in comparison to commercially made fine tolerance mount instrument that you can get, what kind of optimum exposures do you find generally are good enough? Because obviously I can fine tune this thing until it's up to the limit with its plastic and wood kind of tolerances. You know, you can with EQ6s and stuff like that, you can have exposures that go on for minutes and even hours. But in reality, you probably get away with, say, 30 seconds most of the time. So I was just wondering what the general rule of thumb is, because there's going to be a point of no kind of real return of making something more and more accurate for not an awful lot of return. So I just thought I'd ask that question and see what you thought.
It really depends on sort of two things: your focal ratio and the brightness of the object you're shooting. So for instance, at a very fast focal ratio like f2, I've been able to bring out the dust clouds around Polaris with 30-second exposures. But if I was shooting at f10, I would need much longer exposures to do that. So it really depends on the...
I've been using an f5 Dobsonian, actually, just sitting on a platform with a planetary camera, which seems to work reasonably well. But getting long exposures is tricky because it's made out of wood and plastic.
Sure. So I mean, yeah, I would just start going after things that are brighter in the sky and see how, and go along that way. Just working to dimmer and dimmer objects, but start with the bright ones.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I just thought, I figured that 30 seconds is probably good enough for most things if you're taking quite a lot.
Yeah, all the Messier and all of that kind of stuff, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great.
Okay, thank you, Wobble Wing. Now I know where the name comes from. Thank you. I'll gently release you. Swim free. There you are. And next up, we've got Noah's Astro. Welcome to the stage. Unmute your...
Hi, guys.
There you are. Hi.
Hi.
What would your question be?
So I kind of have like two questions, like they kind of like work well to each other. So for like the Astro YouTube people, I find like when I'm like editing a video on the computer and like I watch it back on my phone, like when it's uploaded, um, like the contrast and the saturation seem to be lower. And it just doesn't pop out as much as it did on my computer monitor. So I was wondering, like, is there any like tips and tricks to like make the two seem to like work more efficiently together?
A couple of things. So, like the computer screen versus like a phone screen, I don't know what you think, Nico, but I don't know whether it's really like comparable to each other. It also depends, like your YouTube settings, like on your phone. Like if you go into the little settings icon on YouTube, it depends what resolution you're playing it back at, because on a computer your screen's probably gonna be like 1080p or 4K. And on your phone, it's definitely not going to play back at 1080p or 4K. It's probably going to play back at like 360 or 480. So I would definitely check that setting. I don't know what you think, Nico.
Yeah, every screen's going to be different. So I mean, you said it's lower contrast on your phone and on
Yeah,
between
like what I mean. Sorry, Nico.
Go ahead.
Like when I'm
Go ahead.
editing on my computer screen, like it's full of saturation, right? But then like when I upload it to YouTube, it just seems like there's less saturation and like the colors don't pop as much. I think like maybe do I need to add more saturation?
You could, yeah. I mean, I don't have much experience doing that with video, but with photos, I'll often before I post to something like Instagram, look at the picture on my phone because it will look different, and then do a phone edit. So you might want to do that with video. I've been too lazy to really get into that, but you could.
Oh, I see. He just went back into the audience.
I was
Okay,
just
let's go. Yeah.
Sorry. If you were still listening,
Chip in.
you can have a computer monitor. There are settings on them which can give extra saturation. I don't know whether it's like a game filter possibly, or so it depends whether you've got this loss of contrast via uploading to YouTube. If you're watching the video on your PC, that might be worth doing and seeing if there's if it's just your monitor editing it in real time.
Well, I guess there's lots of good YouTube tutorials out there. So we're approaching like the last minutes now. Welcome to the stage. We've got now the last two questions here. So Ozo Gamer, go ahead. Welcome to the stage.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine.
Okay. My question is it worth it to buy a ASIAIR Plus or a Stellarmate for a Skywatcher, a Star Adventurer? Because they have an app now for the ASIAIR Plus, and it involves stacking too. So is it worth it?
Does Nico, did you image with one of those?
No, I
devices?
never have, just because I don't. I'm not an app. The small screen on the phone is just not really my thing for controlling the gear. But if you're okay with that, then they are pretty nifty. So it's sort of up to you. I think, they're not so expensive for what they do. They're I think $200 or $300 or something like that. So.
Yeah, Helena, you are imaging right now with Nina, right? Right, and but were you also considering ASI at some point for later? Was there something?
I've definitely considered ASIAIR. Definitely. I think more for like a travel portable rig, like say I was using like a dedicated Astrocam, and then on the other end was like, I don't know, like a 135mm lens, and I put it on like the Star Adventurer to control that. If I wanted to like incorporate auto guiding or something, I might want to include the ASIAIR. I haven't thought about it from a home setup, just like going back to just, I love having the laptop screen and like the luxury of seeing everything and being able to stack at the same time as imaging. It's just, it works really well for me. And when something works, I tend to just leave it in case I break it.
Very good advice. Toaster, what are your thoughts?
Well, as someone that does own an ASIAIR Plus and has not been able to use it yet due to the weather not playing ball, I had the Pro as well. I really like it. I mean, I come at it slightly differently because I'm not really able to travel, but at the same time, I'm not really in a position to be able to have a permanent setup, and dragging out the laptop each time doesn't really appeal. So the idea of using the ASIAIR is pretty convenient for me because I can do everything I need to do. But I think people that use Nina will express a love for Nina, and rightly so, because it's very, very good at what it does. The ASIAIR is probably not quite as good as that, but if it fits into your use case, then sure, go for it. I mean, it's very, very light. It's very, very easy to set up. It's very, very user friendly. Yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone, but it just depends on your use case.
Yeah, but is the stacking in the app good or not?
I couldn't tell you for that because I haven't had a chance to use it. I have seen. I mean, I can link you. I'll link it to you separately unless you've already seen it. That there is another YouTuber that did a video live stacking on it, and his results look pretty good. Again, would it be better than doing it with a third party to the app and doing it around a standard kind of method? I don't know. I haven't been able to compare it, but once I do, I'll let you know my results.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ozo Gamer, for your question. And last but not Luna Fox, welcome to the stage.
Hey everyone.
Hey.
I just had a question about equipment. I've been imaging for probably about 12 months now, and I'm switching between an 8-inch SCT and a William Optics Zenith Star 71mm refractor. I'm using an Attic 414 one-shot color camera. Now I'm completely unguided at the moment, and it's been in the back of my mind for quite a while that maybe I should look at guiding. Also, I'm mainly into nebula and galaxies, and I just wondered what I'd get more bang for my buck with. Would it be filters or guiding?
I
Those are
really
sorry.
think that long exposures, you really can't beat. Like, yeah, you can do like multiple short exposures, but I've seen like comparisons between doing multiple short exposures and stacking them, and then like less longer exposures. And really, when you're like capturing faint detail, in nebulae and stuff, I really think my personal opinion is go for auto guiding and then filters afterwards. That's certainly what I've done in the past, and it's worked really well for me.
So I went light pollution filter, then guiding, then a more extreme filter, then like narrowband filters, and that worked for me too. So I think either way, I mean, light pollution filters get a bad rap, but I think they work pretty well. So if you're going after nebula.
I must admit, Nico, it was actually your recent video that sort of piqued my interest in the dual band filters, and it sort of got me thinking, I should look at that route first over guiding.
Keep in mind those were guided exposures because I was doing 6 minutes, so you could do shorter with those, but like Helena said, then you're going to get a noisier result. Yeah, it's sort of it's a hard question because both are good to get. So.
Yeah, I understand it's. I probably need both, but I just wondered, which was the preference first. But because they're quite comparable in price as well, a filter or a guiding system. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you can't go wrong either way. But yeah, so I would just get one and then get the other.
100%.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Cool. Lunafox, thank you for coming onto the stage. So basically this wraps up our after party, so to say, or official our after party. Thank you, Helena. Thank you, Nico, and also Damian for sticking around. He was here like in the first part, basically, but probably needed to go. Yeah, thank you all for listening, and also to you two to answering all those questions that were here. you're very welcome to stay or just move everything into speak easy, and then it will be like the after party. Let's call it that, or yeah, whatever. But basically,
How
for
long
this,
did the after party go on for last time? Just out of curiosity.
we had it for 60 minutes until we had the first hands raised up on the stage channel that somebody needed to go to the loo.
No.
And
I
then,
mean the after party.
oh, I don't. It
Didn't that
kept
go for
creeping
something
into
like
the
4
night.
hours?
Oh yeah, that's that's a long time. But I guess for this format, I don't know, Toaster. Would you like to stay here, or let's move it to the more casual speakeasy?
Well, we've got no more hands up at the moment, so we don't really know who's still got a question. Still quite a lot of people. I mean, if people want to put their hands up, it's up to you guys.
Then okay, there the hands go up. I was just asked to end it at 10. So Helena and Nico, if you would like to keep sticking around, then thing. So I just
Yeah,
allowed
entirely up to
questions
you.
again.
I'm happy to stay on for a little bit. If there's
Okay.
any questions that I can answer, I'm not sure that I will be able to, but I'm happy to stick on.
I'm going to take a quick break, but I'll be back in a few minutes and see if there's any questions. I'll be back in a couple
Okay,
minutes.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
So from now on, we'll just have the questions from the top. So Ethan Loke is the next one to come in, and let's do that. So Ethan Loke, welcome to the stage.
Hi.
Hi. What's your question?
So my question is, I'm using a Nikon D3300 on a tripod with a kit lens. So how do I know what settings to use? Do I only rely on the histogram, or are there other ways to choose the settings?
It's
So
probably
generally,
you go.
oh no,
Helen.
you go, Ryan. Then you go. No, you go.
Oh, good. It's going to probably be for a 300D, probably 1600 ISO, daytime white balance, and if your untracked exposure time is going to be limited by how long before the stars start to trail in the sky. The longer your focal length, the quicker that happens.
You can calculate how Nico's actually got a really good video on this. I think you can calculate how long your exposures can be without your stars trailing by using the 500 rule. I think I can't remember what the calculation is, but you can definitely divide something by something and times something by something, and get a result, and that'll be like how long you can go for without your stars trailing.
I do have the full equation. The 500 rule kind of only works for old 15 micron cameras.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that
I got
answers
nothing on this. So
yeah.
next.
Next question then. Char 3ZZZ something.
I think this should be the quick fire round, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
Get through them quick, and we'll try and get through as many
Here.
people as we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. I have a question. There's two binary stars that's supposed to merge and collide. In 2022. Do you think that that's a fact? Have you all heard anything about that? That it's supposed to create a red nova?
I haven't heard of it, but it's possible.
I'm sure this came up on the last question time.
Okay. We
sure this
don't have
came
an
up.
answer now.
Okay, what about Betelgeuse blowing up? Apparently, I don't know if that's like a fact or if it's
already happened. It's already happened, and prove me wrong.
Yeah, we have to
Can
wait
you
for that
actually
light of the.
can you
Betelgeuse
see it like
hasn't
in the
been seen in
sky?
about 400 years.
Well, if Betelgeuse blows up, if it's it will have happened if we want to see it in the sky right now. It must have happened about 600 years ago. That's basically the distance from Betelgeuse to us. It's about 600 light years. So it will take that long to come to us. So if if it's going to happen, or if it has happened, and we will the light from it will arrive to us, we will see it very, very brightly in the sky.
Yeah,
But we
that's
don't
what
know
they're
if it's
also. Yeah, that's what they're saying. But the two binary stars that are like merging each other, that like apparently like whenever they collide, that it's going to cause like a big supernova. And about April 2022, it'll be visible in our sky, and it'll look like a moon. It'll look like we have two moons for a couple of weeks.
Here we go. Here's the man that's going to answer that question. Go on, Ben.
Hey Ben, welcome.
Hello, can we hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yes. So this the 2022 Nova we've talked about in the server before actually. Bad news, unfortunately. So this was, I think, based on a study done in 2018 looking at these two stars,
Right.
which looked like they were on a collision course. And yeah, if they were, then it would have caused a nice red nova. It would have been like, it wouldn't have been supernova level brightness. It would have been a new kind of naked eye visible star, but not amazingly bright. But it turns out that follow-up studies looking at those stars showed that the original one was actually a mistake. So 2022, we're not going to get nice red nova from them, but we might get it from somewhere else.
I was so excited to see a red nova.
Yeah, it's a shame. But
A
there's,
lot
I
of
mean, there's
people
still
are
hope. We might
scared,
get
but
random ones.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, I appreciate it.
But
Thank you.
welcome, and hopefully a nova to you soon.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we've got just a dude with a camera. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. I actually have a quick comment first on the ASIAIR. One thing to keep in mind is that it is restricted to using their cameras, their focusers. So if you guys are planning on using that in the future, just be aware of that. Wonderful product, but it does have some restrictions. They won't let you use a QHY camera or a Canon camera, for example.
No, you can use Canon cameras.
Oh, you can. I'm sorry, I misspoke
Yep.
on that one.
Canon,
I know it
Nikon,
can't. Okay.
Olympus are in the line as well, apparently.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, I have a QHY camera, unfortunately, so that kind of prevented me from using that as an option. So, cool. Back to my question. My original question was actually going to be for Damian, which was about seeing, but I'll pivot to a different one that I did have. One thing that I've
I
shot.
can cover a thing.
You can? All right, cool. Then I will go ahead and ask that one. So I have struggled. I have a 5-inch Maksutov and an 11-inch C11, and they produce relatively similar images. I have no issues getting everything dialed in with the Mac, and with the C11, I don't know if I'm just not having good enough seeing or if I've got something wrong, but I've tried it on other people's telescopes, and I've never had a lot of success in getting really, really tight details.
So the main thing you're going to need is ideally that you're at a place where there's laminar flow. So that's generally where wind is coming from the ocean. It's been sitting straight for a long period of time. That's going to get you your most stable seeing. Other things are after a rainstorm when all the heat currents have kind of stabilized out. Because, yeah, I shoot with a 6-inch Maksutov.
Okay. All right, so after a rainstorm, unfortunately, I'm nowhere close to the ocean, so that's not super convenient for
Are
me.
you near a desert or anywhere where there's, say, 50, 100K of flat land, not near mountains?
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm basically in between the ocean and the mountains, so.
Okay, well, if the wind's coming from the oceans, you'll probably have decent seeing. If it's coming from the mountains, you're going to have a very bad time.
Okay. Sounds like I may need to have a field trip with my C11 then.
All good. They're very portable.
Yay, field trip with C11s.
Awesome,
Okay.
thank you.
And off you go to the others. And we are TDA. Welcome to the stage. How may we answer your question?
Hi. So I have a SkyGuider Pro, and I'm planning to buy ASI 533 MC Pro. But I'm confused with like which telescope to buy. And I have two options in mind. One is Redcat 51, and second is William Optics Z61. Which one do you guys recommend?
I personally heard great things about both. So it's really a toss up there. I'd toss a coin, honestly. I've seen really good results with both as well, and both would work really well. Did you say you had the Sky Guider? Both would work really well with the Sky Guider.
One thing that may be a consideration to think about is that if you get the William Optics, then you're going to need to invest in the flattener as well. So that may be something that, from a budgetary point of view, which would be worth considering.
Oh, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah.
Personally, I'd go with the
So-
Redcat on the Sky Guider. 250 is just really a nice sweet spot for a tracker, and it means you could do longer exposures. The Z61 has a 360 millimeter focal length, and so you're sort of pushing the limit of a tracker. You'd be limited to shorter exposures, probably.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, and gently off you go to the others. And the Druid, welcome down to the stage.
Hi guys, thank you very much for having me. So I basically have a Nikon D750 DSLR, and I was hoping to get a second-hand Nikon D600 and get it astro modified, but it turns out in the UK not many people astro modify Nikon cameras for whatever reason. So I was hoping at looking at either clip-in filters or other filters that I could use without any astro modification to get the H alpha color into the nebulae. So and I
Which
posted
camera?
Oh, sorry, you go on.
If I can use it on the Nikon D750, that saves me the trouble of buying a second-hand used camera. Then Nikon D750, that is.
I think a company, Astro STC or something like that. It's a Hong Kong company. They make clip-in filters for Nikon that you could look into. And
Okay,
I
and
recently
what-
did a video showing the difference between a stock camera and a modified camera with these kind of dual narrowband filters. So you can check that
Okay.
out to see if you like the results.
Is that
I'm
the
not
Optolong L enhance versus Antilla ALPT
Exactly,
video that
but you'll get similar results with the STC Astro.
Okay, so you're saying that I don't really need to astro modify it as long as I'm using these filters.
Well, it's up to you. You look at the results that I posted and see if you like it, because I mean, you'll
Okay,
definitely get
so
more of the nebula if you modify, but some people
Of
would be
course.
okay with stock. So
Right. So the only reason I'm looking at clip-in filters is because then I am independent of what lens I am using. I could go 50 millimeters, or I could go the Sigma 150-600 that I usually shoot with. If
Yeah.
I buy a threading filter, then I'm kind of limited to whatever filter size that I buy.
yes, but at very wide angles, you're going to be off band with these very narrow band filters.
Okay.
Just be careful. You can't expect to do like a 14 millimeter lens or something, because you'll get very
No, of course
strange
not.
results. Yeah, yeah.
course not.
But
Yeah.
at a reasonable focal length, sure. Yeah, you can switch to any lens.
Okay. So these are the OSC narrowband filters that we are talking about then.
Right.
Or are these different?
Yeah, the OSC means one shot color, so it means
yeah,
color
one-shot
color
color, yeah.
cameras, yeah. And then the specific one I know for Nikon, I think it's STC. It's a Hong Kong company. You
Okay,
can Google
okay.
it and find them. Yeah.
Will do. Right. Thank you very much, guys, and Happy New Year to you all.
Thank you. Happy New
Same
Year
to
to
you.
you too, and a year
Thank
full of skies. Okay, next up, MOT. Welcome to the stage.
Hello, good evening. I've got a question for a member of a Facebook group I'm a moderator of. Excuse me. He has a Coronado PST and he's debating on whether or not to get a 40mm Etalon filter. Any ideas on if that would help him?
I'm sorry, I did not get that. I'm really hard with Scottish.
Oh, I'm very good at German, comrade.
Yeah.
Right, I'll do it one more time, and maybe the the maybe some of the Scottish people in here could convert it for you. So I'll do it in English, okay? Hello, mate.
Please, no, don't. I've heard you do this before. No. Do it
Yeah.
in your own native tongue.
Got a Coronado PST scope, so I'm assuming that's a sun scope.
Yes.
And
yeah,
the guy's debating on whether or not to get a 40mm Etalon filter. Will it help him in his observations?
I've
It's
never
long
done
filter.
solar
I've never
imaging.
heard of that.
Yeah, neither have I.
Let's see.
I've heard of it, but I can't help you because I don't do solar, so sorry.
I don't think we have if we've got a solar person in the
person that probably hit it would be Jimmy the Chicken, but I don't think he's here right now.
No.
No, he was on his phone, I think, and he couldn't pitch in with his voice.
So yeah,
My
you might
second question is then,
send him a message.
when can we get a universal translator for Astro Consti?
Yes, I need one, definitely. Or I need to spend like 2-3 months in Scotland and learn the ways of the Scots. Okay, so we've got the next question up. Let's unmute. Here we are. Hello, and KN.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I have a question about my equipment. I recently got an Astro 5.5 SCT, and the seller also gave me a ASI 120 MC one-shot color camera. But every time I take exposures or videos through it, it all comes out in black and white. And I've tried the D-Bear option. Is there any tips on this?
What camera was it again?
An ASI 120 MC, a color camera.
And you're getting it in black and white.
Yeah.
So my thoughts would be test it indoors in daytime, because that way the colors will stand out a lot more clearly. It'll make more sense. You can put a red object in front and see if it looks more red. Other things are, what kind of program are you using to actually record off it?
A SharpCap 3.2.
Okay, so you can try other things. You can try Nina, you can try Fire Capture. You can see if it's an issue with the particular program or if it's an issue with the actual setup.
Yep. And generally, is it better to have more exposure on planetary images or more video and less exposure?
For planets, you generally want a high frame rate. In other words, basically video.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, welcome. So next up we've got Wink. Hello, Wink. Welcome to the stage.
Hello. I was wondering if an Astro EQ would be something to consider.
Yeah, Astro EQ, just for anyone who doesn't know this, is actually a do-it-yourself go-to that you can slap on any mount that is able to hold stepper motors. So we've done it on the community rig and on this Discord server. Like after the community rig, a number of people have done it as well, like doing this do-it-yourself go-to, and it works surprisingly well, surprisingly accurate, and it's more down to the mechanical problems that a mount brings than to this software. So it's really actually easy to do. Have a look at the community rig 1.0 channel, and it's all documented there.
Okay. Well,
Welcome.
thank you.
Another fair alternative to Astro EQ is actually OnStep, but I know Astro EQ tends to be more game towards EQ3, 5, etc.
Well, I have an EQ3 too, so.
Yeah, then
Right.
Astro EQ is really easy to adapt for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so on Sipe, welcome to the stage.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can hear you well.
Okay, so I got a 8-inch Dobsonian for Christmas, and I haven't really had that much luck with the weather, but I was able to see the moon and the Orion Nebula, so that was already nice to see. But now I wonder, how do I precisely find objects? Like, is there some kind of app that I can use on the phone or something else?
This is one for
who?
Nico because you've
Yeah,
done
but-
good work on this.
And also for Helena, because she started with a dub as well.
Yeah, of course.
Did
So
your
who wants to
did
go
your
first?
DOB come with a finder scope, Sipe?
Yes, it has a finder scope.
So the first thing to do is once you get it on the moon or the planet, align the finder scope with your main scope so that they're
Yeah,
in
I did that.
alignment. Okay.
Yeah.
Once you've done that, then what you want to do to find objects is get a planetarium app on your phone, and then you use bright stars to do something called star hopping. And so you look at what bright stars are near the object, and then you can sort of use your finder scope to get there, and then you sort of move to the object. That's the idea. It takes some practice, but it can be a lot of fun to learn how to do that.
Okay. So yeah, thanks. That helps. I have another quick question. When I used my telescope, it was like I would say -2 degrees Celsius, and of course it had some condensation. And I wondered what I should do after getting it inside. Should I wipe like the water off, or should I use some kind of protection for the telescope, or?
So was it on just the tube or on the mirrors? Because the mirrors normally stay pretty warm.
Well, it basically was on everything, like on the finder scope, on the lenses, and like the whole tube.
Okay, in that case, well, at least with Dobsonians, normally you put the lens caps on before you walk it back inside to stop that
Yeah.
happening. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend wiping down mirrors and lenses without using actual lens wipes or similar, because that can damage them. Mirrors especially, the coating's only very thin.
Mm.
So for now, I'd say just let it air out in the warm, and for next time, put your lens caps on before you walk it back inside.
Okay, so a weird thing was that while I was outside, it suddenly like went foggy, like the finder scope. I had it out for like an hour, and after like 40 minutes, it just suddenly was foggy and like watery.
Yeah, it's when the dew point is really high that happens. You can get dew protection, but it's sort of maybe not practical for a DOB, but it happens just because the dew point is so high.
Okay.
So normally it would be like a dew heater band on the finder scope and possibly on the secondary mirror, depending on how cold it is outside. The
Yeah.
primary tends to stay pretty warm because it's a giant block of ceramic, but the secondary and the finder cool down pretty quickly, so dew heater bands can help alleviate that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. So Zorro or Zorro, you're next up. What's your question?
Yes, hello, thank you. I have a question related to EAA. I have a Bortle 5 Sky, and I'm trying to set up a EAA setup with a Heritage 130p flex, and I'm wondering if it would be practical to use an ASI 120 MC camera for EAA, or is it better to have a less noisier camera with a bigger sensor?
With EAA, you mean electronically assisted as
Right, yes.
so basically to find stars
Yeah, I'm
or
not
to
familiar
do
with the is this for guiding, or I'm not
No,
I'm not familiar with the.
it's actually to enhance the power of my eye. I'm usually I like to visually observe, and under my bad sky, I'm trying to power off my eyes. My English is not so well, sorry.
It's like a live stacking, that kind of thing, or just
Yes,
doing
yes,
short
yes.
exposures. Yeah, my preference would be a slightly bigger sensor than the 120. That's pretty small. You know, I'd look at like the 174, I think it is. That's a little bigger, or a 183, something like that would be a bit bigger. So you could fit more in, like the whole Orion Nebula or something like that.
Okay, but the noises are not the big point.
I don't think so. No. But I mean, actually, the 120 is maybe an exception. That's a pretty noisy sensor. But after, if you get one step up from that, I wouldn't care about the noise too much.
Okay, thank you. And a little second question: what do you guys do when your sky is bad?
Generally fix up my gear for the next time.
Edit all data. Definitely is one.
I'm a big reader, so I try to get all the astronomy and astrophotography books and just spend time reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zaro. And next up, Ali Riza. You're back up on the stage. Hi. Your
Hi.
next question.
So my question is that let's say on the same exposure time, which one gonna win? More subs with short exposure or fewer subs with long exposure?
Fewer by far. It scales roughly that you need 1,000 times more photos to equate to 10 times the exposure length. So by far, in general, longer exposures will win if they're done well.
To a point. So if you're talking about very short exposures versus like medium length long exposures, then there'll be a big difference. If you're talking about 5 versus 10 minutes, you'll see a much smaller difference. But if you're talking about like 1 second versus 5 minutes, that's going to be a huge difference, and the longer exposures are going to win hands down. So that's my sort of spin on it.
I see. Because before buying the Sky Adventurer, I used just a simple tripod and the camera itself, and I was down to 3 seconds exposure. So I wanted to know that with buying the Sky Adventurer, which I have the ability to has a long exposure to kind of like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. How much benefit do I get? Does it
Big
worth
benefit
it?
on anything that's dim. You're going to get a huge benefit, which is most of the deep sky. So a big benefit.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, and next up we've got Bradders. Bradders, do I?
Hi,
read that
hello.
out
Can you hear me
correctly?
well?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hi.
All right. So my question is that I've just picked up a L-Extreme filter to go with my one-shot color camera, and I want to know what's a good balance between shooting with narrowband data and combining it with RGB data, because I want to get like a balance between the two in my images.
I think it depends on like your light pollution level. So if at home you're in heavy light pollution, I'd suggest shooting through the filter. And then
Yeah.
when you can get out to a dark sky site and shoot like RGB with no light pollution, that's going to really benefit your image.
Yeah, that makes sense because I am in like a Bortle 4/5 area, which is pretty
Okay, so
decent.
not so bad.
I feel like I get like good data within the RGB already, so I didn't know if I'm going to put too much RGB into my images, or should I just mainly focus on narrowband?
So my answer is a little complicated. It really depends on what you're shooting, because if it's a very dynamic scene with like reflection nebula and stuff like that,
Yeah.
then you might want to put more time into the RGB. But if
Yes.
it's something where you're just trying to really just get those star colors, then you could put much less time in the RGB and more time in the narrowband. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's all good. Thank you for that.
Okay. I need to unmute my mic. So next up, we've got Mr. Jem. Welcome to the stage. I hope you also know how to unmute your mic, just like I just learned. What's your question? Yeah, also mic problems. Dragoon Guard, would you mind? Do you have a question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, right. Good evening, everybody. Mine's basically just an opinion on the trails. It's getting worse, obviously, with SkyTrain, etc. How do you combat that with pictures? Do you just simply just snip it out? Is there any programs that will airbrush it out?
Sigma clipping will already remove any outliers, which would be star trails, unless you have like a Starlink train where you've got 50 subs in a row where they all have the same trail. Generally, they'll be scrubbed out.
There's only a few areas of the sky where I see sometimes an issue with that. Like Orion is actually a part where there's a lot of satellites. So once in a while, even with good clipping, I'll see a little faint line there. But usually you can just sort of adjust the clipping parameters to get rid of it.
And do you think, I know this is an obvious question, but is it going to get worse?
It should actually get better because all the existing now there's a motivation for satellites to be darker because there are too many complaints.
Right, that's a good idea. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome. Mr. Jem, you're back up on the stage.
Yep.
So, now we can hear you.
Yeah.
So, what's your question?
My question is, when I check the telescopios for simulating the target on my sensor area, it is very tight fit on my shot. So I am worried about the tracking artifacts will ruin the whole picture. Should I take a risk to fit the target on the picture, or should I move on to the? I don't have a very precise mount, so I only have guiding tracker and the wide field telescope. So I am scared of ruining the target for the fitting too tight on the pixel area, then on the shot.
I think you'll have to do some experimentation and see. I don't know if I can answer that just like off the bat, because how much you're going to lose to tracking artifacts or I don't know other things. You'd have to really see for yourself, but then think about that when you're looking at Telescopius. But generally, I always think at least probably 5% of the edges I'm going to lose.
That's not that's not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
The other thing you can do is if you do have the time for it, you can always just offset it and take two panels and mosaic them together afterwards. As long as you get similar exposure time with similar settings, they'll probably end up meshing together pretty well.
Thank you.
Okay. So next up, was it Robbie Green? Yeah. Robbie Green, welcome to the stage. I see a Yoda there. Speak you can.
Unmute you will.
To the audience, move back you will. Okay, Soupsock, you're up. Trell, I see you're up.
Hello,
Hey.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, great. So, I mean, I have two connected questions. The first one is the following, that I've been using Adobe Sony, as you can see in the picture, for some years already. And I want to move to astrophotography. And everywhere I read, they recommend a small refractor. And but I'm very familiar with cleaning and mirrors and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if I buy a reflector instead because much cheaper would be a problem. I mean, because I believe that the reason people recommend to use a refractor is because people do not know how to collimate. Is it true, or what's your opinion on this?
I think another reason people recommend that is because people tend to undermount. So you don't really want to undermount a big scope. But if you have a suitable mount, then yeah, sure, and then a reflector is very good, and like you said, very good value. So
Yeah, so I mean, I already said, I mean, I'm going to buy this EQ6R Pro. So I'm just wondering if I just spend so much money in that refractor would be worth, because I'm very comfortable in cleaning mirrors, adjusting everything in a reflector. So that's why the question. Yeah.
on an EQ6, I'd be comfortable with a newt. Yeah, 6-inch or 8-inch is fine.
I think if you
Okay.
already as well have like the knowledge with the reflectors, I think that's definitely like what put me off that's what like steered me towards getting a refractor was the collimation and the mirrors and the maintenance and stuff. So if you're already very familiar with that, then I think you might as well stick with it because it's going to be a lot more comfortable for you and you're going to know what's going on.
Okay, so I think that's it then. And do you recommend? Do you have any recommendation of a small reflector? Because I've seen that some cheap ones people complain about the focuser, and we have to upgrade, and then I mean you have to buy carbon one, and then you end up the price becomes the same price as a refractor. So do you know any?
In Europe, I think TS Optics makes some pretty good ones. Like their ONTC line are already upgraded with really nice focusers. I don't know what your budget is, but that's an
Yeah,
option.
I'm flexible. I mean, I just don't want to spend money on something that I have to work so much later, and then which is just I had to sell everything. Yeah. So I'm thinking of spending up to 3,000 euros or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd get one of those ONTC newts from TS Optics. The people that I know that have those are really happy with them.
Okay, they are astrographers, yes.
Yes, they're meant for astrophotography. Yep.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your question, Super Trill. Soup Socks. Sorry, Toaster. You wanted to say?
I just thought something, and then I just had to then second think it because I think maybe I was wrong. But I was going to just mention Rory's affiliate link, but I don't know if it was applicable in that case.
Not for TS Optics.
Well. This is why I should be quiet.
Okay,
no, don't be quiet. Just
there was a smaller question time, and I asked you this same thing, Astro Consti. Do any of you guys have experience with the Apertura 8012 inch stop? I ordered
Apertura
one
8-inch Dobsonian.
12.
12-inch Dobsonian. Okay. If we have experience with something like that. I don't think any of us has that particular brand and that particular
I have other Apertura scopes, and the Apertura scopes are made by GSO, which is a pretty good mirror maker. So the mirrors are quite good. The mechanics are going to be what you expect, like not that good, but I think you'll be happy with it. Is my opinion.
That's good. I was also wondering, what are your highest focal length scopes, just out of curiosity?
For me, 1850 millimeters. So that's a Mac Casa Green.
It's pretty good.
Mine is a 1200 millimeters. It's a f4 10-inch Dob.
Pretty good. 8012 is going to be 1500 f5.
That'll be nice for clusters and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's been on back order for over 2 months. It's kind of frustrating.
Okay. So that was basically. Thank you, Soupsock. And then Astroglide, you're up. Still,
Hello, Astroglide.
We see that your mic is moving something, but okay, Cyberblitz, let's try with you while Astroglide sorts his microphone. Cyberblitz, what's your question? Okay, so we are all having mic problems. DJ Rai, what's your question?
Yeah, hi.
Oh.
I was just curious. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you. We're celebrating it.
Excellent. So yeah, one of the previous comments you sort of mentioned about doing mosaics, and it's been on my mind for a little while to give that a try. I've been imaging for quite a long time, but rarely have quite a lot long breaks between. So what I was sort of wondering is people's views on when you're capturing a mosaic. Would you aim to capture a whole load of one pane on one night and then a whole load of the second pane on the next night, or would you, you know, alternate between, you know, maybe 10 shots of each frame and then move over, take the second frame, so on?
Generally, when I've approached mosaics in the past, I've done it where I've split up a night to. So far, I haven't gone more than 8 panes. So I've split up the night roughly to capture equal amounts. I think I was doing like 15 of each in a row. Otherwise, night to night seeing can mean that one frame ends up a lot blurrier than the rest.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought of shooting, you know, say, set a sequence up where I'm shooting, you know, maybe one frame for 5-10 shots, then alternate to the next frame and work that way. Then you kind of average out your conditions throughout the different panes.
It also means that if you have, say, cloud roll and you've got similar amounts of data on each frame, you can actually make something of it.
Yeah.
It's a smart way to go. It's not the way I've gone in the past. What I do is I just do tons of data and then stack the best for each pane, and that's worked out for me. But maybe my skies are fairly consistent across time, so it works out for me to do it that way. And I'm not very like seeing dependent, because I'm working at a image scale where I'm not really, the seeing doesn't bother me. If you're working at a fine image scale, then I think that's more important to get sort of equal data on each pane each night.
Yeah, I can't remember what my image scale is offhand, but yeah, I'm shooting about 600 mm focal length, so not too far, not too deep.
The one benefit to doing it the other way of really focusing on one pane one night is then you have a picture of a pane that you could then edit and share or something. So if you're that's sort of the way I've done it, is I work on these big mosaics, but each pane is sort of its own picture.
Okay, yeah, I like that as well. Yeah, interesting. Okay, yeah, thanks guys.
Also, software like Image Composition Editor from Microsoft, if you need to, I can get you the link for it. That can handle that can handle a good difference in brightness, amplitudes, color, etc. So
Okay.
even if you've mixed up your editing a little bit, it can generally mesh them together and look nice.
Sure. I had a little mess around with some pre-made data in PixInsight the other day, and I was quite impressed with how PixInsight merges the data as well, which is quite good.
PixInsight, that will handle it better. I was just catering to if you're a person who was still looking for free software.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay. You're welcome, DJ Rai. And Cyberblitz, I see your mic is moving. Does it actually work? Say something. Somebody
Come on,
says
tiebreaker. Which one will have their mic working first?
If you don't say something, you will get cloudy nights. Oh, that doesn't sound so good.
Clear skies or forever enjoy your clouds.
Okay. Well, no, okay. There's no more questions. I'm sorry, guys. Nothing's working there. So I guess we need
Oh,
to.
can you hear me now?
Yes. Who's talking there?
Okay. This is Astroglide.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't see the push to talk on the bottom.
Okay. Go ahead.
Let's see.
So what's your question?
Okay, so yeah, I was out picking up my gear this morning, and I heard Nico mention, as he goes remote, he has trouble with batteries. I switched over to the new Life Pros. Um, I've been getting about 4 or 5 nights of full imaging off of a 54 amp battery. Now, depending on gear, of course, that's that. But my question, I guess, for the group um, is there a huge difference between a doublet and a triplet when it comes to actually refractors? I've done some research on my own, and I've seen everything kind of go towards triplets, but just some insight, I guess.
Doublet with mono can be fine. Triplets for color is probably what you'd want if you're going for color. Like if you're going narrowband filters and RGB, you're fine on a doublet. Otherwise, probably a triplet.
In my experience, the what they call the semi-apo doublets, like the ones that have the FPL 53 glass element in them, are pretty good. I mean, much better than most camera lenses I use in terms of not having any chromatic aberration, even with a DSLR. So my opinion is triplet is over a semi-apo doublet is like a 10% improvement. It's not a day and night kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, all right. That's kind of where I was going, and kind of going with.
What's more important is getting the flattener. Definitely get a flattener, because that'll give you a nice star shape across the field.
And that's what I've seen recently. There's been some doublets out there made by Stellar View, but out there on the used market, but they're so old, you can't get a real flattener for them. So that's kind of the problem.
Yeah, and I always like getting the matched flattener, the one that's actually made for that particular scope. So yeah, I agree. Get one that comes with, that you can get the flattener that's designed for it.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to play with it in the dark, being frustrated, but cool. Thank you for the answer.
Okay, great. And now we know that your microphone was working, so this means that
So
it will not be
Cyberblitz, are you on push to talk or not?
might very well be. Yeah. I guess we'll wrap it up here. So sorry, Cyberblitz. So Helena, Nico, thank you very much for being here with us and answering all the questions here from the community. I invite you to come back whenever you like. And also in like 2 weeks, we will be presenting here like inside this Discord server, like a little process to let you propose projects, imaging projects, like to go on an observatory class CDK 20 telescope. It's basically mounted in a real observatory, in a university observatory.
Oh, wow.
So that's the community scopes thingy that you'll see down in the categories below. That you just have to opt in into the rules to see that. It's basically our way of sharing telescopes, and our biggest telescope there will be a CDK 20 that is basically where the imaging time is lent by running it, among other telescopes. The invitation goes to everyone else here as well. And yeah, those are basically the next events here on the server. This was the last event for this year, obviously. I wish you all a good start into the. Wish you all the best. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, Toaster. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Indoraptor, for being on the stage. Also for answering the questions. And I guess this is it. Anything anyone else would like to say?
Thank you for having me. It was absolutely awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, thanks everyone. Clear skies in 2022.
Yeah, exactly. Clear skies in 2022. So then I guess this is it. If anyone wants to stick around, we've got the speakeasy See, and people can keep talking there. Okay, bye everyone.
Goodbye.